I want to also to specially welcome another guest in our meeting, which is our Dean of Engineering, the person of Engineer Dr. Abayo Melayeni. You are welcome to our midst also. Thank you very much for making it today tonight. I'm so happy. You're welcome, sir. So I'm going to go straight to our meeting now. Our guest is already waiting for us. So I'm going to try to introduce our guest to us this evening, and then I will read a bit of introduction of him. Dr. Toyosi is a Nigerian-born accomplished engineer professional specializing in energy access, electrical networks, and decarbonization within the mining sector, with a global reputation for innovation. He holds numerous accolades, including award for his groundbreaking work in solar energy and food processing. His passion for energy access, sustainability, and human empowerment has led to development of influential systems and policy instruments benefiting both public private institutions across multiple nations. And Dr. Craig boasts an impressive educational background, hold a PhD in engineering from Stellenbosch University, along with diplomas, advanced certificates from esteemed institutions like Harvard University and the Technical University of Munich and the Wash Business School. He also earned his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from FUTA, Nigeria. He's a certified energy manager and actively contributed to various international journals as a reviewer. So Dr. Toyo also received a national honor in South Africa in 2016 and was named among the 2022 Australia Emerging Leaders in Governance. In the same year, he was invited to become a member of a prestigious Folk Business Council. So Toyosi founded the Toyosi Craig Foundation, a mentorship program and a scholarship initiative aimed at nurturing young innovators and leaders throughout Africa. And in addition to his remarkable achievement, Dr. Craig has recently published his autobiography on Motoyosi, the Meme of an African Child. He is currently working as an energy specialist in the mining sector in Australia. I'm in the audience to welcome our guest this evening, Dr. Craig. You are welcome.
Thank you so much, Engineer Biola, and good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was touching with time. It's 3 a.m., 3:11 a.m. my time. So I want to recognize the presence of the Dean and Dr. Abayo Milayeni and a lecturer among us. And also all the alumni present here. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you guys. It's always a pleasure. Trying to see if I could share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Okay, yes, we can see.
Okay. All right. So, like said, my name is Toyosi, and it's always a pleasure to speak to people that are from where we come from. I'm also from Nigeria, specifically also from Ogun State. And virtually, I have a lot of friends that actually went to OU and doing well globally, at least that I can really say I'm proud of. So I know the impact that the department has made in the world. So when I received the invitation, I value it and I do not take it for granted. So straight to it, I would just like to share a story in terms of decarbonization in the mining sector. And if I could ask everyone, I know one way or the other, we all have heard about carbon emissions, we heard about renewable energies, we heard about power. At the same time, we've heard about mining. Mining is a big deal outside the country. It's also the same way we view oil and gas in Nigeria. And it'll be shocking to know, like some company like Australia, for example, the major source of income in Australia is from mining. And when I say mining, it means extraction of all the minerals, either surface, underground, or even in ocean, whatever it is. And you can just put in context, like imagine Nigeria is mining its mineral resources, just like iron ore. We have lithium now. So my company that I work for, it's an iron ore exploration company, but we now have right to also mine lithium. So I'll just speak generally about the industry and I'll speak about the opportunities around it and then what we're doing and what I encourage people to go into if they are interested in it because mining is always needing people. So let's just dive into it. So that's major what I'll say. So I'll say I'm sure we're all familiar with something like this. The world is currently powered by fossil fuel, but there's transition. In the context of the globe, coal is still the highest producer generator that we use. It's still the highest source of energy generation. Over the course of my career, I've worked in energy generally. So I started from hardcore renewable energy and then moved into energy decarbonization generally. So I have an overview. And because of this, because the reason why we often use the conventional method of generation, like hydropower, for example, or gas in Nigeria, is generally because they are sustainable in terms of timing. They can be used as our base source of power, which means they don't need storage. Basically, that's why they use them. They run 24 hours. And because of the issues of climate change and global transition, the world is moving towards new energy, which are the ones on that you can see wind is climbing, getting to almost 10% of the global um, energy source. So, but currently, almost 35% of the world power generation comes from coal. And if you want to think about mining, mining is energy intensive, and most mining is just like if you think of Chevron in Nigeria, or you think of ExxonMobil or Total, you want to wonder how they power their energy, for example, and that means like they sometimes have to generate their own energy. So in context, if you put my company or the mining company, for example, we often have to mine in difficult terrains or in arid lands or in the Sahara Desert or in places like that. And that means that we produce our own power, the whole electricity. We also often have our own rail. We have to build our own train track. So all the mining company have their own trains. And then sometimes we have our own airport. So, for example, my company has its own airport. We have our own port, and then we also have our own train, which means we kind of have to provide power for all those things, and that's a huge emission. So it's a big deal when you want to say you want to decarbonize that. But when I talk about, I think I'll just show this generally that who and who is contributing to the ozone layer depletion or climate change or something like that. You can see majorly it comes from China, Africa, but not really contributing majorly to the world in terms of emissions when it comes to global tons of CO2 emissions. So if I bring that home, what that means is globally we've made it easy that when you want to calculate what is the emission that comes from a particular thing or from whatever you are using, we often use what is called carbon CO2 equivalent, which means whatever you are doing, there's emission from it, either CO2, either nitrous oxide, either laughing gas, whatever that you are emitting. There's a simple calculation that you calculate it and then it can be carbon CO2 equivalent. That means whatever you are, for example, if you are driving a car, what's the equivalent amount of CO2? And the reason why CO2 is used is because CO2 is the one that lasts in the air for long and majorly affect the ozone layer, right? So Africa were not majorly contributing too much to the world. I just wanted to put that in perspective. But let me just dive straight into it. When you hear mining, what people think generally is something dirty, something that contributes to ozone layer depletion. But the truth is, as we move to the sector that we are all talking about, as we decarbonize the world, which I mean, decarbonize means removing carbon from the world or reducing the amount of carbon emissions. For example, if you go to the south Nigeria and you see oil, the flaring of gas. For example, I was in a meeting of emissions and something globally recently, and I was speaking to some people from one of the largest oil company in Nigeria, and they were like, it's cheaper for them to flare the gas than to decarbonize, and I'll explain that. Now, in order to move to renewable energy or to use electric cars, which I think everyone is moving to, you need to mine. There's something that we believe that whatever you know in this world, and that should always be the basis of our study, the basis of our training, the basis of our careers. Whatever we do in this world is either mined or grown. So it's either the thing is grown, so which means we need to increase whatever we have to do with mechanized farming and agric, or it's mined, which means we need to to develop whatever we have to do in terms of mining. So we need steel. The decarbonized world needs steel, and steel is mined as iron ore. The same thing that copper is mined. All the wind turbines need copper. The copper that we need in the next 10 years to get to Vision 2030 is more than the copper that has been mined in the last 500 years. So the mining industry is booming crazily, and although 97% of steel can be recycled, still the amount that we need is enormous. If I put in perspective, my where I work is the largest private company in Australia, not listed. It's just a private company, and we're able to export 65 billion tons of iron ore last year. 45 billion ton of that, 65 million tons, sorry. 45 million ton of that went to China. So that shows why China is that big, because the industrialization is happening there. So even if you want to use PV, laptop, the body of the electric cars or whatever, you need mining. So what are the opportunities around there? So if I put in perspective, this is when you say mining, although mining generally involves extraction of minerals from under the ground, right? But I mentioned to you that they are often in places where it's a bit difficult, that is far from the city or far from the port or things like that. So majority of our emissions come from transportation. So hence, the best way to decarbonize mining is to walk through transportation, which means reducing diesel that are used in our truck. Sometimes we use renewable energy penetration. But these two, the last two, are the main things that causes emissions. We have our own trains, and they have to use a lot of what we call, or a lot of diesel. Now the opportunities there is no real batteries available for like electric trains. So for example, we have like four trains that run every day for our operations. There are some larger companies that have 10 trains running every day over 300 or 500 kilometers. Now this means that we want to electrify the whole train, and electrifying the train, you can see 15% of our emissions come from the train. So there's opportunities there. The technology is now available. There's chances there, and when people want to go into field like that, we encourage it. A lot of mining companies are even sponsoring people to develop opportunities. For example, we'll be launching, which I'll show, we'll be launching a new train line, just putting battery on one of them, because it's hard. You can't put electric train itself, only electric train, because you don't want to build transmission line over 500 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers for single operation, because those mining only last for like 10 to 20 years, and then you move to another place, right? So we need batteries. So that technology is not available, and that's an opportunity. So anyone studying in that line or building capacity in that line will always be needed. Mining itself is electrification of the trucks, because like I said, 40% of it, for example, 40% of our emissions, the total mine emission, comes from the trucks. And these trucks are huge. They are not just conventional trucks. These are trucks that when they stand, they carry 300 tons per trip, and they are like, some of them are bigger than two-story, three-story building. That's how big these trucks are. So which means if we can electrify just 10% of our trucks, means we can electrify 13% of our whole mining operation. And that means there's a huge opportunity there. And I can tell you today, like, as of today, this is what is happening. Some companies, because we work with the operation, the original equipment manufacturers in the world, the electric trucks are not available. And this is because I see there's gap between academics and industry all over the world. I don't think it's exclusive to Nigeria. I've seen projects being left in the campuses, even in Germany and even in the UK. I think the country that does best in this is America, but these companies are there's no much many mining companies in America while they are there in the Alaska or the cold regions. But the truth is there's opportunity. So the capacity is not there. So anybody that is building, you can see the major challenge we have is number one is workforce. Electrification of truck is big deal, which means you want to electrify a truck and turn it into a list. Typically, like changing a car from being combustion engine, internal combustion engine to an electrified car. So the trucks cannot do that because if I think it's something we cannot read about. We can read about mechanical trucks and electrical trucks. We call them haul and dump trucks. So the earliest that are available is going to be in 2027. Now the challenge there is we were working with some inventors and stuff and universities that came as a consortium. Of course, the money generally is not always a problem in the mining. So we give them the money, partner with them, but to convert an existing truck, right, into an electric truck. Now the first one that will be available is 2025, as you can see here. Now that's like a pilot turning one of our trucks. And then these trucks always have a short life cycle. And the original equipment manufacturers like the Hitachis, the Komatsu, the CAT, they are only bringing their trucks in 2027. And this one will have warranties and everything. So there's problem there. Like, do we put money for researchers and engineers, consultants to build one, which will only be ready by 2025 without warranty? And then they keep testing it. By 2027, we can get the original one from the original equipment. And then, for example, our mine expires in 2030, we have to move to another mine. So there's a lot of challenges in that. There's a lot of opportunities, but there's a lot of challenges. And it's all around technology development. So the world has gone beyond conventional, just learning about manufacturing alone, but learning about how the manufacturing is used. So I just wish to show us. And also, for example, you can see we partner with the whole of my team is in the States currently to commission this particular train. It's an electric train. So when I mean electric train, it's just battery on one of the couches. And which 31 October, that will be on Tuesday, and they'll be commissioning the practical completion, right? And there will be like a small demonstration. But this train again will only arrive in Australia in 2 years' time. So you can see the technology is there, but it's not really available. So decarbonization in the mining sector, generally, what I mean by that is reducing carbon in the mining sector is a big opportunity. And everything I've said here, you can relate it to oil and gas, and you can also relate it to extraction. And we should know that in Nigeria now, there's lithium rush. If you are not aware about it, please be aware. It's going to change the space of Nigeria because lithium is bigger than gold when it comes to the uses in terms of we moving to the electric vehicles. And as mechanical engineers, we need to position ourselves to know that. And there's also a lot of opportunities in mechanical engineering that we all need to go for. And some of the things that are needed in this world nowadays are not really taught in school. So building capacity in electric vehicle or building capacity in battery technology, battery recycling, deep charging, and even charging stations, and even building capacity when it comes to truck You'll be shocked at the opportunities that are there and the capacity when you find it locally. For example, for people that are in Nigeria, if you have that capacity, it companies will always prefer is to bring in expatriates from abroad. So while we decarbonize, we need ourselves, and I think it's not impossible for us to go through that line. So I think that's what I wanted to share generally with us. Not sure. I hope I am able to pass some knowledge. If not, I think I can take some questions and we can take it from there. But there's a lot of capacity that are needed in that line. Even the institutions recommend that we look for the opportunity to partners with institutions. If it means reaching out to the Nigerian Geological or Survey Council and ask for people that have already found, there are people that already have existing licenses to extract minerals in Nigeria. There's a lot of extraction that is going on silently. You can reach out to them and say, okay, we would like to partner, we would like to be your innovation partner. What do you need? And that will help us such that the department itself can literally place half of the maybe for IT or things like that, people there and sign a partnership that whatever we develop as projects, we'll do 10, 15 projects for you guys, and the IP is shared between the two institutions. That's what I've been leading my company because I came from an academic background also, and it's been working because no one is an island of knowledge. So thank you so much for listening. And yeah, I'd like to take some questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Dr. Craig TLC. Really appreciate that. Um, I will want to take question from here now. If you have any questions, you can easily raise your button hand up. I will call you easily. Uh, and then while I wait for questions from people, I would just want to ask just one of the questions. I know some people will still ask questions, and my own questions is that I'm talking from the perspective of Nigeria now. That I can see that Mami is not really talked about in Nigeria. And then I can see that there is no really, though there must be some work going on, which were not known to everyone. Let me say in academics or in the industry, so to speak. Probably there might be some work going on in our country, but I just want to know that what are the opportunities that is really there in Nigeria for us? Because I know there is a lot of resources. We have a lot of resources that we can actually lay our hands upon. But as maybe a fresh graduate or probably someone that is just coming out from university, what areas can they actually functions and make use of this opportunity in the mining sectors in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I just posted something in the chat. It's when I also entered mining that I knew there's a lot of mining in Nigeria. A lot of silent billionaires in mining in Nigeria, but I don't know why it's been kept among the northerners, kind of. And also, the southerners that know about it are just kind of quiet. There's a company I posted there. It's called Kogi Iron Ore. It was just on my personal, my personal endeavors in the stock exchange market in Australia. I just saw the name, like one of the highest, like they were reporting so $1 billion financial gain. So I'm like, Kogi Iron Ore. This sounds like a Nigerian name. Out of interest, just for me to click it, and I'm like, hey, these people are in Nigeria. Oh. And then that made me realize that they not. For example, last week there was a conference that was just finished in Nigeria, Nigerian Mining Week. Just for you to know how huge mining is in Nigeria. And I think because we were raised to believe like everything that brings food to the table in Nigeria is oil and gas. And interestingly, there's like kind of world global move away from oil and gas. But as we are moving away from oil and gas, of course, there is need for mining. The opportunities in mining is enormous. Because we've been raised to believe like all you need to do is mining engineering. There are very few. I think they are the only people that are majorly, there are few mining engineers even in mining. So there's processing, which is a big deal. Processing of the ore is a big deal. There's a lot of things that can be learned from that. Remember, in overseas, uh, it's not majorly tied to, like, if you are looking for a job, for example, as a graduate of mechanical engineering, the first advice I give to people is there's nobody that gives a job called mechanical engineer anymore. There may be, but very few. So mechanical engineering is the bedrock of all engineering, right? So you need to look for, you pick a struggle and face it. Like in terms of mechanical engineering now, you could say you want to focus on dewatering, for example. Dewatering, there's a lot of consulting company that has to do with pumping. There are hardcore engineering consulting company that do with pumps because all these minerals are extracted from underground, and a lot of dewatering means they are inside water, right? We need to take out the water before we explore, and then we sometimes need to inject the water back. So there's a lot of opportunity in dewatering. If you go to mining itself, and this is what I mentioned, truck, for example, these guys are highly paid. I mean, when I say highly paid, highly paid. Even the ordinary truck drivers earn up to like 80, $90 an hour. And that is not to mention every other things that they do. So the technology, battery, it's a big deal. If you learn anything that has to do with battery nowadays, I think to the design, for example, the design of battery casing, which is basically engineering, design of battery casing. I myself, I did a lot of hardcore engineering, but I've moved more into the managerial aspect of engineering, which is also a big deal. My PhD, for example, was in industrial, but my master's and bachelor's was mechanical. And it was just my personal interest. I just prefer to be in the managerial aspect, which is also a big deal. It's a plus for you to have an engineering background. An important aspect for us is also to learn about economics and finance and forecasting because nobody wants an engineer that can do basic economics or basic financial models, right? So those are the things that will definitely place you on a better pedestal. You can be project manager, you can be financial analyst, you can even start as a data analyst. I'll take an engineer as a data analyst because I know that they understand the machines, even though we may not have been taught the rudiment of that particular machine, but the overall thinking of engineering itself position you everywhere. So as an engineer, not looking for a job as mechanical, but generally. So that's what I would advise. But for Nigeria, there's huge mining going on. Of course, the Minister of Solid Minerals, Alaki, was here last month, and we had a meeting with him and some Nigerian experts here. And they signed an MOU with Australian government. And I think it will change because either we like it or not, 37 minerals is a big deal. The turnover of my company paid a tax of $3 billion last year. And I know another company that paid $13 billion. That's more than what Chevron or Shell is paying in Nigeria as tax in Nigeria. So you can imagine having uh 50 Shell and 50 Total in Nigeria. So
Hmm.
position yourself and then it's possible. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Let me just quickly take this person, Mr. Yotunde Olatunde. You can go for it.
Um, everyone that my question is that when you go to the question about said about that don't feel like as I put it,
I am
say you are
struggling
doing
to
a
hear
job
you.
as a say something that is not consistent. I say mechanic that okay, can you hear me sir?
Maybe you can repeat your question. I was
Hello sir.
struggling to hear you.
Alright sir. My first question goes to that. You said many Nigerian colleagues are not studying the courses like minerals and mining that all stuff and time can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, continue.
So, and he said many people in Nigeria, like in Nigeria, are not studying with those courses you mentioned. Like, in what way can someone learn those courses? Like, after doing finishing courses, now you like, still student currency now. And if we cannot change this course, we are just getting now.
Sorry, can the host hear him? Are you able to clarify the question he's asking?
I can't really hear, but I think what I can hear a little bit is probably is trying to ask about. I can hear some. He said some people probably they are not doing the kind of study related to maybe mining engineering. So probably he was trying to look at what can they do. I'm not sure if it is the question is asking anyway.
Yeah, if that's what you're asking, you see what we learn in school in Nigeria. Actually, I always tell people you'll be shocked that Nigerian first degree. It's just like, I mean, basically, if you want to be an hardcore engineer, engineering is generally about mathematics. Understanding mathematics on the one side, which you choose your struggle, whether you go through calculus or algebra or numerical analysis. And then on the left hand side, understanding the principles. Maybe we're not taught mathematics so well in Nigeria, and that's I can have. I mean, even the host here, I think he went to my to my institution where I did my masters, so he can testify to that. And we always talk about that. But the knowledge, the what we are taught in school, the most important part of it is we were taught to have an open mind, which really you rarely get in other parts of the world. So living in academics, when you want, because we don't really get an orientation about where we need to look at after school. Every graduate in Nigeria, once you finish, the first thing you start looking for is mechanical engineering graduate job, which really doesn't really exist, like I mentioned before. The end up, you'll see people end up being like technicians or technologists, which is not really what you were trained for. It's good as a start. It's always good as a start because then you know the hardcore, if that's what you want to do, right? But what I would say is if you go online, for example, I can give you a million companies. You can just type top mining companies in Nigeria or top oil and gas company in Nigeria or top oil and gas company in Africa. Don't limit yourself to Nigeria. And then look at the kind of jobs that are advertised, right? You will see a job advertised as business analyst. What they'll put there is degree in engineering or economics or this. What I do is called energy reporting. They'll put degree in energy, degree in engineering, or in accounting, right? So that's how the world operates. There's very rare jobs that you will see degree in engineering. If there are, that means you have to work for engineering consulting companies. So there are companies that are consulting firms that typically work as engineering firms, right? So whatever, if you see, for example, if I bring it home, ExxonMobil, Total, Shell are popular names in Nigeria. They have servicing firms like Schlumberger and people like Schlumberger and some other companies that services them, or General Electric, for example. All my friends that are in General Electric, I think only one of them have the title of an engineer, and we all went to FUTA and studied engineering there, right? So even though you do engineering related things, they don't really advertise it as engineering, and that's what I mentioned before. So that's why you need to be widely open-minded when you do your search. So when you see those search, mostly what they ask for is knowledge of Excel, knowledge of financial analysis. But if you want to do hardcore, because you can put it, engineering is very hard and it's also simple. Simple in the sense that no one wants you to try something new. I won't invite you to my company and you want to start something new on our machines because the safety is high. Any little thing, companies can lose their licenses. It's not Nigeria that people get away with oil spill and things like that, right? So engineers are hard to replace. It's hard to train new people. So you must put that at the back of your mind when you are looking for job opportunities. So you never search engineering jobs alone. Most jobs, all jobs advertised need graduates in engineering and graduates in other things. So that if that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if we have any other question in the room. We have some few minutes, a little bit to also receive question. Any other question? If you have any question related to me or any other stuff related to career wise, we can easily ask for the young graduate also among us.
If I
Okay.
can put, if I can
Since
put something in perspective there, one of the aspect that goes on now, you know about automation. Automation is a big deal for mechanical engineers because you already understand the principles. So automation is something you can learn, maybe with simple coding. You don't have to go too much into deep. Most of the things you need in life, you don't need to be too much an expert to start. So when you begin, because any company you go to will still teach you on the job, anyways.
hmm,
So
hmm,
that's what you should look into. And a lot of consulting firms are in Nigeria, not just the
hmm,
big four. The big four don't really pay well if you are particular about money, but there are other engineering firms that are consult. So you can also search for engineering consulting companies and see what they
hmm.
want.
Thank you very much, Dr. Craig Toyosi. Really appreciate your coming. Okay, let me just receive this question before. Okay, Adeyemi, Christiana, you can go for it. Yeah, a female among us here. You can go for it.
Okay, hello Toyosi. Hi everyone. Okay, so how is it like moving from oil and gas in Nigeria and then going into the mining industry here in Australia? So apparently moving okay, I'm currently in Sydney.
Oh, okay.
So moving here, I didn't plan on going into mining and then not oil and gas as well. I was like I was going to move into data, but then again, while you were talking, it occurred to me that yes, we also can do data analytics in the mining industry. So my question is, for instance, if I want to, which I haven't made up my mind yet anyway, how is it like to migrate from someone that has the oil and gas background in Nigeria to the mining industry here in Australia?
Hmm,
All right. Thank you for that question. The way oil and gas is in Nigeria is the way mining is here, which I mean the largest contributor to the GDP of the nation. I did a bit of my oil and gas in Nigeria before I left. And that's what I said. Business analysis is needed across board. Data analysis is needed. For example, I need a data analyst because the two guys that are my data analysts are already in the UK for holiday. And I hired a temp, like a temporary job or someone temporarily, and the guy wants me to permanent him. So yes, so it's always needed. You just need to look at the top mining companies and then just apply. People want openness, especially overseas. People want. I don't want to hire people who have always been doing what I'm doing for the last 20 years. I want you to bring an open mind. I want you to bring fresh ideas, right? Because, for example, if I give you my career in Australia, when I arrived in Australia, I started with Australian Energy Operator, which is like their NASA kind of. And from there, I moved to consulting. So I wanted to because I was in power. So I was like, okay, let me go into consulting. Maybe I could start my own. But I see that the consulting was not my thing, like hardcore consulting. I actually came to Sydney for consulting for a year. And I realized that, okay, the booming industry in Australia is mining. Nigeria has opportunity to mine. Whether we like it or not, we'll still become a mining nation because we are so blessed. And the people are doing it illegally. Over $2 billion last year was gold extracted in Nigeria illegally, the
hmm,
one that was reported. Imagine if that is done legally. So I move into mining as an energy expert, right? So I don't do anything mining. I was trained mining on the job, right? I go to the mine when I only go to the mine two things. Wants to build my flight, what do you call it? Flight bonus because it's free flight. It's a charter flight to the mine as an expert, or I go if, like, for example, there's no one to go, my team are not available. So I'm always in the office. I rarely go to the mine. I don't do five food. There are people that do that. You choose to do whatever you want to do. So there's opportunity there as a business analyst, as a data analyst, as a career, whatever. We can have an off the you can reach out to me if you are really interested in that sector. And that goes to everyone. The opportunity is enormous. There's no day my
hmm,
company doesn't need at least 20 people every day. And
hmm,
we're just the top five. We're not even the top four. So imagine
hmm,
how the top four. how many people they need.
Mm, thank you very much. I think if we stay, we are going to continue taking more questions. Google my local logos out here. Thank you, Dr. Craig. Thank you for those people that is also in the room for listening to our guest this evening tonight. I just want to appreciate you for this lecture. It's being recorded, and then probably for some of our member that is not around, we might put it on YouTube for people to also listen to it, who might be beneficial. I just want to, before we close this meeting, thank you very much once again, Dr. Craig. So you are welcome. So before we close this meeting, I just want to appreciate our dean. Thank you for being in our midst tonight, in the person of Dr. Engineer Layene Abayomi. And also, I want to appreciate two of our lecturers that is also in our midst, in the person of Dr. Engineer Adedoyin Sulaimon and Dr. Engineer Musa. You are highly welcome. I really appreciate your time, giving us your time at this crucial time in time. So thank you for joining us. And also, I want to specially welcome every one of us. I mean, the alumni. Thank you for coming. At least it's not that quite easy for every one of us after a busy week and weekend that we need to rest. So we still look at, okay, we need to get something and at least learn one or two things. Some of people have come and at least joined and then left already. I really want to appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. Before we close now, we will just sing our second stanzas of national anthem. So just to use that one, I love that second stanza and it speaks a lot. And then we'll sing that one, we'll recite it now, and then we will recite it, not sing, we'll recite it, and then we close. So thank you everyone this evening, and then we will read our second stanzas of national anthem. One to go. O God, our creation, direct our noble course, guide thou our leaders right, help our youth to know the truth, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, and to build a nation where peace and justice reign. That is my prayer, and I believe that should be our everyone's prayer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the meeting closed now.